Members, we have a quorum and it is the appointed time. Let me call the meeting to order. First, I'd like to welcome everybody to the first regular meeting of the panel on commerce and industry. And before we go into the agenda proper, we'd like to ask you to deal with a certain matter, and that is Mr. Dennis Kwok. On the 8th of October, actually 18th of October, gave a letter or wrote a letter to the chairman of the panel saying that he would like to join. The relevant letter has been circulated to members via paper CB bracket 169/12 to 13 bracket 01. I believe members have got it. According to the House rules, Rule 23B and C, any member that wishes to apply to join a panel after the appointed time, but the reason is not that the member is indisposed or that the member was out of Hong Kong, and if there are not the sufficient reasons, the entire panel would have to make a decision on that application. Now I'd like to ask members to consider the application from Mr. Dennis Kwok. Do you welcome Mr. Kwok aboard? Thank you. We welcome you. Welcome to you, Mr. Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. Item 1 on the agenda. Information papers issued since the last meeting. There was one. That is the administration's paper on the 15th plenary of the Hong Kong Guangdong Cooperation Joint Conference. That's paper CB bracket 141/12 to 13 bracket 01. Members, any comments on that paper, please? Right. No comments? Thank you. Item 2. Date of the next meeting and the items for discussion. The next meeting will be held on the 20th of November 2012 on a Tuesday at the same time, at the same venue. And the items to be taken up are a report on the work of the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Offices, the Hong Kong Economic Trade and Cultural Office Taiwan, and the Office of the Government of the Hong Kong SAR in Beijing in 2011-2012. And the second item is Mr. Wang Ting-Kwang. Why is it that the ETO in Guangzhou and Chongqing and Shanghai, why is it that they do not present a report to us? Why don't they do so at the same time? Why is it that you only look at the two places across the strait? What about Shanghai, Guangzhou, Sichuan, Chongqing, etc.? Usually, on an annual basis, all the ETOs would come back here to report to us. Yes, I understand. Then why is it that this time around you have singled out Taiwan and Beijing? This would include all the ETOs, including Chengdu. If you are talking about offices across the strait, then all those ETOs should also come. Certainly we have ETOs around the world, even in London, Tokyo, and New York. And I understand every year there is one occasion on which all of them come back here to report to us, but this time around it is just for across the Taiwan Strait. I believe all the ETOs on the mainland would come. Hope so, because we have investments in all the provinces. Even Chengdu office will also come to give a report. Thank you. Mr. Kwok. Chairman, I have a question which is a follow-up on this one. We do not have an item to review the work of the ETO. We don't have that item. My memory tells me that many years ago they would come back here to report on their work. However, I like to say that we should have an item to review whether the ETOs should have a cultural element. I think our office in Taiwan is the only one with a cultural slant. I think that in the long term, some of our ETOs should also shoulder some cultural promotion responsibilities. But where can I discuss this? Members, in fact, these ETOs sometimes duplicate with the offices of the TDC and Invest Hong Kong. So we said that perhaps we could amalgamate them, and as you said, we should be able to promote our culture as well. But it's not happening. We will note down your view. We will communicate with the relevant authorities, all right? Mr. Andrew Leung. Yes, it's good to talk about culture, but culture is not for this panel to discuss. If they should come back, then we can have a joint panel meeting with the Home Affairs panel. Then we can take that up. Or else it will not be a proper thing to discuss here. So, Chairman, you should make a decision. Okay. We can have a joint panel meeting. Second item for the next meeting, relocation and reprovisioning of information technology systems and facilities to the Trade and Industry Tower for the Trade and Industry Department, meaning from the offices in Mongkok, moving them to Kowloon Bay. These will be the two items for the meeting next time. Item 3, which is a discussion item for the meeting today, statutory maximum liability of the Hong Kong Export Credit Insurance Corporation. I'd like to welcome officials attending for this item. We have the administration and also the Hong Kong ECIC representatives. We have Ms. Carol Yun, Deputy Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development, Mrs. Candy Yong, PAS for Commerce and Economic Development. And then from Hong Kong ECIC, we have Mr. Ralph Lai, Commissioner, and Ms. Cynthia Chin, General Manager. Welcome to you. Deputy Secretary, is it that you're going to walk us through the paper? Yes, Chairman, thank you. Thank you, members. The paper proposes to increase the cap on the contingent liability of the Hong Kong Export Credit Insurance Corporation, or ECIC, from $30 billion to $40 billion. The ECIC is to provide export insurance for Hong Kong exporters to reduce their risk so as to promote and support Hong Kong's export trade. In order to ensure that Hong Kong enterprises, including SMEs, that there would be sufficient support, the ECIC must have sufficient export liability to provide the insurance. And after we have seen the growth of such insurance capability, we'd like to propose the cap of the ECIC's contingent liability from $30 billion to $40 billion. And the ECIC considers that the new cap should be sufficient to meet its business growth in the next 4 years. The ECIC's standing policy is to maintain adequate reserves to meet its obligations. So we'd like to propose to raise the contingent liability, but then that would not result in any actual expenditure of the insurance or the government. The ECIC will still maintain a prudent approach to business and its healthy financial condition. We did also raise such caps in 2002, 2006, and actually 1997. We hope members will support this proposal this time around, and we will make use of the established procedures to provide an information paper to the FC, and we'd like to hope that can introduce the resolution into LegCo by the end of 2012. Thank you, Chairman and members. ECIC and myself would be very glad to take questions from members. Now it's time for questions. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Chairman, first of all, thank you. I'd like to declare that I am the ex-chairman of the Consultative Committee of the Hong Kong ECIC. We can see that the Hong Kong economy is slipping, not just Hong Kong, but the entire global economy. Hong Kong relies a lot on exports. Exporters, of course, have to face the shrinking of the export market. And in recent years, we can see and also we can hear that there is a growing risk of payment in arrears from buyers. In order to help SMEs, we have gave many proposals to the ECIC, and the ECIC has also launched enhancement measures, including preferential policies and also free buyer credit checks and also credit limit application processing, shortening of time, etc., etc. All those have been very much appreciated by the public and also the export trade. Chairman, in recent years, we can see that because of the business requirement of the ECIC, the administration has indeed, as the DS said, raised the contingent liability cap. The last time was in July 2011. The insured amount was raised from 20 billion to 30 billion. That is for SMEs loans. Now that the global economy is hugely uncertain, I believe the ECIC would also expect the payout or loss ratio to increase. Therefore, now that you propose to raise the contingent liability cap from 30 billion to 40 billion, I would support that. But I have this question. This time around, you are working very fast. As I said, the last time was 2009. But this time around, it was just last year you raised it to 200 million, and now you are applying to have it raised to 40 billion. Is that enough? Do you want more? Perhaps the commissioner can say more. Now we have faced a financial tsunami. I'd like to know whether you need to come back very soon for another raise. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Lai or Diaz? Thank you for the question. Let me clarify the figures and I will defer to the Commissioner to give you more information. First of all, we are talking about the contingent liability, and that is to raise it from $30 billion to $40 billion. The last raise was in 2009, and that raised it to $30 billion. In fact, in the past, when we applied for increases, we would have regard for the growth of business of the ECIC and their business forecast, and we do a very prudent assessment. This time around, we are proposing to raise it from $30 billion to $40 billion, and the ECIC considers that this would be sufficient to meet its business growth in the next 4 years. Maybe I should defer to Mr. Lai to tell you about their forecast of business growth in detail.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, last time in 2009, the increase was from $15 billion to $30 billion. And this time we're proposing to increase it from $30 to $40 billion based on these considerations. Now, in terms of the contingent liability, it has to do with our underwriting capability. We have, say, 3,500 insurance policies, and each having an underwriting amount, and the amount must not exceed the overall amount. And as of now, the cap is, or the upper limit is close to $30 billion. That's the case as on the 15th of October. And we then make calculations based on the over 300 combinations on the total increase and the business growth in the underwriting business, and our forecast is that in 4 years' time it will reach the cap applied this time. So we're applying for the increase, which should be sufficient to meet the growth in the next 4 years. This is based on the client's portfolio as well as the our track record in terms of business growth. So if the money is used up very soon, then they can come back and apply for further funding from LegCo. Mr. Andrew Lam. I support this proposal to increase the amount because, as Mr. Jeffrey Lam said just now, because of the economic environment, exporters need to be insured as a form of protection against non-payment risks. Now you're proposing to increase it from $30 to $40 billion. But at the same time, have you considered any means to help them? But over the past few years, you have made more and more effort to help them. But the more measures you have, the more risk you have to take in. So for the proposed increase to $40 billion, in fact, you can be more aggressive, especially in helping SMEs to tide over difficult times, so that they can get more business orders. You can take up more risks because you talked about the 3,000 orders or so. Actually, the amount insured is quite high. And this is just the estimated risks. Let's say the government is saying that they expected $40 billion to be used up in the next 4 years, but in fact, the actual figure might not reach $40 billion. It's just the government's estimate. So, Mr. Lai, Commissioner, maybe you can be more aggressive and do more to help the SMEs in Hong Kong. I think this is what you should pursue. And if you've done a good job, then next year you need to come here and apply for more funding again. I believe that our colleagues will also support your application. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. Thank you for your support for the work of the ECIC. Well, over the past few years, as said, in terms of supporting SMEs, the ECIC has made much more effort. Now, in the annex, we've set out the enhanced measures rolled out last year as well as this year. For example, for the first item, fee waiver. Fee waiver was introduced to lower the cost of SMEs, and under the enhanced measures, the waiver will apply to policy holders with commencement date falling between December 2011 and November 2012. And in fact, the ECIC this year announced that this annual fee waiver will be further extended for another year, so that for policy with commencement date falling between December this year and November next year, they will be covered. As for free buyer credit check and preferential treatment for credit limit application of smaller orders, we also have enhanced measures, and we hope that through these measures we will be able to help SMEs in SMEs get the insurance they need in times of economic downturn, and will continue to monitor the needs of SMEs, and will also consider carefully how, if necessary, measures can be further enhanced to cater for the needs of the sectors. In particular, since there are huge risks in the export business, we hope that more enhanced measures can be introduced to help them. Commissioner, anything to supplement? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Member, for the question. Now, if we look at the figures, in fact, these enhanced measures have been very effective, and we have received positive feedback from the sector. Over the past 5 years, in terms of the volume of export, the increase was 24% from 2007 and 2011. However, as far as the amount insured by the ECIC was concerned, the increase was 100%. And we have also looked after more businesses than before, and we will continue to have annual fee waivers, and we will also conduct reviews on a regular basis. For example, for credit for certain countries, if the records are good, we will increase the ratings so that in terms of the credit limit and the insurance amount, these countries will be in a more favorable position. Mr. Wong Ting Kwong. Well, I want to declare that I'm a former member of the Advisory Committee of the Hong Kong Export Credit Insurance Corporation. Now, the sector has given positive feedback to the work of the ECIC over the past few years. So, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the good work. Now, this proposal of increasing the contingent liability from $30 to $40 billion, I think that it's somewhat conservative. So, perhaps you can give it a second thought. To save another trip to Letchole to apply for funding. The other point is that I'd like to know more about claim assessment. So, Commissioner, do you have any information in this regard for our reference? The other point is that I'd like to reflect this view on behalf of the sector. You have done good work, but the sector still feels that the premium is somewhat too high, and they'd like to see the premium being lowered. Commissioner would like to take the question. About the first question, whether the $40 billion will be used up, whether we'll have to apply again very soon. Judging from the business growth and the client's portfolio, these forms the basis of our calculation. Well, if something irregular happens, then I cannot exclude the possibility that our forecast might not be accurate. I want to point out that in 2009, when we applied to increase from $15 billion, in fact, after that year, when we applied for $15 billion more, in terms of the insured amount, it rose by 30%, and that was because within a short period of time, many exporters felt that the risks had substantially increased, and they took out insurance policies. Whereas for the services industry, like the banking services, it shrank very rapidly. So there is pressure on the business turnover, as seen from the figures in export trade. That was the situation back then. Today the situation is different. I once again emphasize that the proposed increase to $40 billion should be sufficient to meet the business growth in the next 4 years. The other point is since 2009 and 2010, when the environment was not good. In fact, over the past 2 years, the loss ratio has been quite good. It has decreased by 25 years. But because of the euro debt crisis and market risks, we believe that this year the loss ratio could reach its highest 50%. And because of market uncertainties, we expect in the coming 2 years that the ratio may further increase. In terms of premium, in fact, over the past decade or so, the premium, on average, had continued to decrease. And we also attach importance to this. If there is room, and that means if we have a lower loss ratio, there is room for us to reduce the premium. So over the past few years, the premium actually reflects the client's portfolio. But we'll continue to monitor the premium mechanism and see if there's room to reduce the premium. Mr. Sin Chung Kai. Mr. Chairman, let's look at paragraph 7. There are several figures I don't quite understand. In terms of loss ratio, now in footnote 1 it says the loss ratio was 88.6% during 2008-09, and here it says by 2012-13 it will increase to about 55%, then 65% in 2013-14. I don't know whether stress test or forecast has been conducted. If we encounter another financial crisis of a similar magnitude as the one that happened in 2008 and 09, by how much would the loss ratio increase, and how much risk will we be able to take in? Have you conducted any such tests? Commissioner, thank you for the question. Now about the proposed increase to $40 billion. Now this is called the contingent liability, and this is a requirement under the Hong Kong Export Credit Insurance Corporation Ordinance. This is the requirement under the ordinance, and each year, after we receive the premium, in terms of the client's portfolio and claim record, we will make some reserve. That is, we anticipate how much we will have to allocate to claims, and this reserve will already be set aside in our financial statement. And for our businesses, many of the businesses or the we all have reinsurers. And you can see that there is a reserve date on the financial statements. Very often the amount is sufficient because the claim very often would not be filed immediately, but rather 1 or 2 years later. Judging from our past experience, it is sufficient. And even if it is not sufficient, we still have a specified date, and we still have a reserve yield, and apart from that, we still have a contingency provision, and the amount was around 1.3 billion Hong Kong dollars as on the 31st of March 2012, and this is the contingent reserve to cater for any disastrous catastrophes. And this is the reserve amount, having discussed with actuaries and the accountants.
If indeed there is a disaster and the 1.3 billion is not enough to meet the liability, then we make use of the government's contingent liability amount. So there have been these provisions and also reserves, and therefore we believe that it is a prudent way to get prepared. I did not say that you are not prudent. Please do not misunderstand me. I do work with some assumptions. Now you are asking for the contingent liability cap to $40 billion, but say if you use up to 38.9 billion and then you are faced with a financial crisis to the scale of that one in 2008, 2009, it might well appear, even if the chance may not be big. And in that circumstance, what are the potential impacts on you? You said that in 2008, 2009, the loss ratio of 88.6%. And if that should happen again, what will your loss ratio be? And how much reserve and other funds will be left? Commissioner, thank you. This is a hypothetical question, and we'll give you a hypothetical answer. If the loss ratio reaches 80% or above, every year we charge premium, and the 80% means the premium charged for that year, 80% of that. And if we have to make provision for 80%, then that's what we do. And 20% of that income will be for other expenditure, including salary. Therefore, in 2008, 2009, the experience is that at that time, the provision did not exactly affect our reserve yield. And if we, for example, have 100% or $100 premium income, but then we have to spend more than $100, then it would affect our reserve yield. As I said, we still have $1.3 billion, and that will mean that we have enough support in our statement of income and expenditure. So if in a year we make use of the premium income and then we will not be able to meet the loss ratio, then we will make use of the reserve yield. Now, according to paragraph 4 of your paper in 2008, 2009, I hope I'm right, because it was only in 2009, February 11th, that you increased it to $30 billion. So I can well assume that when you met the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, the cap was only $15 billion. And now you want to raise it to $40 billion. And now, if you should meet with a financial crisis again, what will be the impact on your financial position? Can you describe it to me in more concrete terms, because in 2008, 2009, you only had $15 billion, and you used only 80% of your premium income, and now you worked with a figure of $15 billion back then, and now you have the $40 billion. But actually, as I said, we have the contingent reserve. This is to tackle a disaster. It is not a fixed amount. It fluctuates from year to year. It fluctuates with our business volume. Say, for example, we had a business volume of $15 billion, but now we have business volume reaching $30 billion. As I told you, now we are using 94.3%, which is over $28 billion. But then the accountant says that this amount is already enough to meet our business growth. And in the next 4 years, we are going to charge premium again. And every year we make provisions, and we also hope to have a surplus. According to the history of the ECIC, which is 40 years, there should be enough surplus in the reserve fund. As I said, the reserve fund fluctuates. And when we raise the contingent liability cap from 30 billion to 40 billion, I believe the reserve will also change because of the growth in business volume. They have a reinsurer. How much risk is taken up by the reinsurer? We make use of a panel of 8 international insurers. at least they have to take up 40 to 50% of the risk. What we do is, if the buyer's amount is big, we would also farm out more of the risk. Say in a special circumstance, there are 1 or 2 big buyers who may have a problem, then we only keep a small amount of the risk with ourselves. Next, Lam Tai Fai. Thank you, Chair. Given the situation in the global economy, everybody is clear whether you're in business or not in business. The FS has said that there are storm clouds gathering and there are uncertainties, meaning that it's very difficult to conduct business and the risks are growing, especially the SMEs. They really are toiling. And I have this comment for the ECIC. You have $1.6 billion in your reserve. Now you have a fee waiver, but that will end in November. How much is that about, the annual fee waiver? And if it is expected that business will still be difficult in the next 2-3 years, why can't you provide a 2-year or 3-year fee waiver so that you provide the service? Secondly, when we apply, we are always worried that the processing time will be long. In the past, it used to be 3 working days. But of course, you can finish it within 3 working days. That is why you are still saying you would like to upgrade your work. So are you confident that you can work with the 3-day processing time target? And also, some companies have told me, there was this jeweler who told me that under the headquarters, there are a few subsidiary companies, but then you would only allow the insurance cover for just one of the subsidiaries and not others. Is that the case? I'd like you to confirm that story. And as I said, the global economy is very nebulous, and I'd like to hear from the ECIC what more measures can you adopt to help people tide over the difficulties. As you can see, the next 2 or 3 years will be a huge challenge for business. In what circumstances would you add to your present measures, including the coverage, the insured amount, the percentage, etc., so SMEs will know what to expect, or else when we get orders, we are also afraid that we will not be able to apply for loans or insurance cover from you because we are never sure whether you would approve our application. Commissioner, thank you. Thank you for those questions. With regard to annual fee, just last Friday we announced that we would provide another annual fee waiver. We are using public money, so we want to keep track of the market situation before we decide what to do again next year. We'd like to be able to do it every year. How much money are we talking about? If we have 3,000 to 4,000 clients, every client would be waived like $1,500, so altogether $4 or $5 million. So it is not comparable to the reserve you have. Well, but that is only one measure. We have other measures. But let me explain the relationship between the reserve and these $5 million. I talked about a few reserve funds, but they are for designated functions. Say if we have $1.5 billion in net assets, then they are distributed in different reserve funds. $1.3 billion, it is a reserve or contingent reserve, and that should not be easily used. But then there are other reserves like operating reserve. If you look at our statement of income and expenditure, what can be used will be the reserve yield or retained profit, and also about the 3-day processing time. In fact, our pledge is to do it within 4 days. When we say 3 days, we are talking about 1 million or less, and we call those small amounts, and we give them priority processing, so they require only 3 days. And we also adjusted it. Amounts with a limit of 1 million or less, you will receive our decision within 3 days. Now, how can we do it? It's very simple, because we accord it with priority. We gave priority to small amount applications. And number 3, buyer's check. It's difficult for me to comment on individual companies, but if you are talking about subsidiaries, in our trade, very often we look at the entire group. We only look at the company. Sometimes if we only look at a company of a group, it will be difficult because you have a buying office, for example. If we can see that it has a close relationship with the parent company, we might look at the parent company's ability level in order to do an assessment. So we work with the group concept. And as to whether we have other measures in mind, in fact, recently we promoted in full steam the risk coverage before shipment. As you know, even before shipment, the buyer can become bankrupt, and the money that has been loaned from banks will be affected as well. And so when the risk increases, more exporters are using our service in this regard. If the buyer collapses before shipment is made, then we give them the risk coverage, and it helps them take loans from banks because a lot of our clients do financing with banks before or after export. And so this measure, directly or indirectly, has helped our clients. As to what else can be done, we'll review from time to time the grading of emerging countries. And if possible, we will enhance the grading, so there will be some concession for fees for exporters. And we also look at other aspects. We will also look at the change in the supply chain in the market. I can give you an example. If something is made in Hong Kong and is exported from Hong Kong, then the shipping is usually done from Hong Kong. But in fact, over half of our clients do not do shopping in Hong Kong, and still we can give them insurance cover. And last year, we gave them the sales by extension of the sales by policy. If the subsidiary is in Hong Kong, the export volume for that subsidiary can also be given insurance cover. So we have been aware of the change in supply chain, and we provided other measures. And also we provide services cover. If companies do not deal in goods but in services, in fact, even in the services industry, there is the risk of bad loans, and we do have policies, particularly for service companies. So our service and our coverage will change according to changes in the market. And our role is to fill the gaps in the market. If there is not the supply of services in certain areas of the market, we'll do whatever we can to fill the gaps. Chairman, can I use 1 minute to follow up on one issue? Okay, 1 minute. Chairman, as you know, there are more risks attending business, and when I talk to the trade, I would give them this advice, and that is, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You should distribute your investment and find more clients. So we are looking for new buyers as well. Understand that you provide free buyer credit check only for 3 times. Now, if my advice to the trade is for them to distribute their business among small clients, can you not provide even a better service? Can you not provide free credit check for 10 buyers, for example, so the trade will be, or sector will be encouraged to distribute their investment, and it would actually be easier for you to give them the insurance cover also.
Thank you for the question. Well, we announced that we will offer 3 free credit buyer credit check. So each exporter will be eligible for 3 checks, but sometimes an exporter might not have a client, but But in fact, under each insurance policy, they will get more than 3 inquiries on buyer's information. So he may be able to get more than 10 credit checks. So he should consider taking out a policy from us. The advantage is that, first of all, he can conduct the buyer credit check, and if he's insured, then he can use it right away. The coverage should be clear, because you cannot dispatch a shipment and then take out an insurance policy later. So we encourage more exporters to take out insurance policies so that they can enjoy the free buyer credit check. Next, Mr. Chung Kok Ben. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask the ECIC loss ratio that you just mentioned. Now here it says that the loss ratio will be expected to increase from 23.8% to around 55%, and I'd like to know the actual figures. Now about the shortening of the processing time for 1 million or below to 3 days, I think that in the export business, $1 million is not a huge amount, and I don't think many exporters could come under this 1 million or below category. Now, and also you talk about the 3,000 or so policies, or 3,000 clients. Now there are tens of thousands of exporters in Hong Kong, so the percentage, as far as the 3,000 clients are concerned, is very low. Does it mean that the ECIC is being too conservative? Why is it that so few companies take out insurance policies from the ECIC? Commissioner. Thank you, Chairman. Now, my response to the 2 questions. First, on the actual figures represented in the loss ratio. According to the information, it's 65 million. Now, for the amount of 55% in 2012-13, the amount is 14.5 million. Why is it that 23.8% seems to be on the low side? In fact, each year, like I said just now, we have reserve, and say in 2 years, if we find that the reserve is still there, then it can be utilized. At that time, the loss ratio was quite low because of this reason. Next point about the 3,000 clients or so, the ECIC each year entered into agreements with new agreements, dozens of them each year. Why is it that the client base is maintained at the 3,000? Well, each year many SMEs clients are lost. Well, of course we conduct surveys, and we found that very often the SMEs could no longer get business, or they're no longer in operation. Now, can we say that 3,000 clients are too little? Some more figures for your reference. We also have insurance policies for banks. Sometimes banking services and export services are quite related. Banks will sometimes do factoring. That is, they buy off the exporters' insurance policies, and they take up the risks as a result. And the banks, in order to assess the buyer's risks, will then take out an insurance policies from the ECIC. So there are quite a number of them. In my recollection, 1,000 or 2,000 of them. So it's a rather broad coverage. And SMEs have business difficulties. And therefore, over the years, the numbers have fluctuated. And some SMEs have ceased to operate, or they have changed their business model. So in terms of serving the community, We do not just look at the number of new clients. Of course, I understand that we always have room to improve. And we've also deployed resources for publicity. In fact, after the enhanced measures rolled out last year, we conducted altogether 60 seminars. I also attended them as well. We provided more information so that the companies know we're offering this service. Chairman, I want to supplement. Now, no matter how many promotional fairs or seminars you have, if the service you provide is not flexible, then you cannot solve the problem. You have so many SMEs in Hong Kong. It's unreasonable just to have several companies taking out insurance policies from you. Well, you said that banks compete with the ECIC for businesses. Well, does it mean that SMEs are turned away by the ECIC so that they prefer other insurers instead? And just now, Ralph, you said that there is actually the reinsurance mechanism. So the payout amount for claims is just about $100 million a year. So there is much room to better protect SMEs. Commissioner, so you heard it. Any other questions from members? If not, DS and Commissioner, you've heard the views from members. And in the coming year, the environment for the business sectors and the SMEs is very turbulent. And the Liberal Party and myself support the proposed increase of the contingent liability from $30 to $40 billion. So I hope that if possible, you can have more SMEs as clients. Don't let banks take away your business by factoring. You should not just act as pioneers, and once the business matures, banks then take away your business by factoring. You heard us. We all support this proposal. This proposal can be submitted to FC. Okay. If there are no other questions, thank you for attending. Item 4, the trade relations between Hong Kong and Taiwan. Let's welcome from the administration Mr. Andrew Wong, Permanent Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. Mrs. Alice Cheung Chiu Hoi Yu, Deputy Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. And from Constitutional and Mainland Affairs Bureau, Mr. Te Chi Wang, Acting Deputy Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs. Permanent Secretary, would you like to take us through the papers? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. Now, today we have submitted an information paper before the meeting for members' reference on this topic. The paper sets out the recent developments in terms of the trade relations between Hong Kong and Taiwan, and also the information provided by various offices. Now, and they include the trade relations between Hong Kong and Taiwan, and the development of the platform between the Hong Kong ECCPC and the THEC, and the recent activities, and also in relation to the ETCO since establishment last year, this operation. The paper also sets out points in relation to tourism, the cooperation between Hong Kong and Taiwan, and they include tourism and investment promotion in Taipei, and also trade promotion, and also the implementation of the Hong Kong facilitation scheme for cross-strait transshipment cargoes and also exchanges, cultural exchanges with Taiwan. And we will continue in the coming year to forge a closer link with Taiwan in terms of trade and economics in particular. We have not yet have any similar agreement as CEPA or the ECFA. And in fact, both sides support the idea of implementing a framework with Taiwan to forge a closer link and promote closer cooperation with Taiwan business sectors and to boost confidence in investments. So in relation to this area, we will continue to make more efforts. Chairman, I think I'll conclude here, and I'll be happy to take questions or views from members. Thank you, PS. Questions from members? First, Dr. Lim Tai Fai. Thank you, Chairman. Now, as PS said just now, Hong Kong and mainland we have CEPA, and then Taiwan and mainland we have the ECFA, but Hong Kong and Taiwan we have no agreement. And you have actually spoken the minds of the business sectors. So do you have in mind such a framework? Do you intend to do so? If so, can you give us a timetable? And on the 29th of June, 2 years ago, after the signing of the ECFA, we became worried about our roles in relation to Taiwan, and we were reassured. But in fact, has our role as the intermediary been affected? Because from a business angle, I think it is inevitable that we forge a closer link with Taiwan. So, have you since reviewed our role and see if there has been any impact and what long-term measures you have? And also, I'd like to ask Mr. C.Y. Leung, during his term, if he intends to visit Taiwan, since much importance is attached to our relationship with Taiwan. P.S. First, on whether we should have a close economic partnership agreement with Taiwan. Well, we have clearly expressed our wish to our Taiwanese counterpart, and also the Hong Kong-Taiwan Business Cooperation Committee provides a commercial platform, and there is a clearly expressed wish that Hong Kong and Taiwan should put their heads together as soon as possible and discuss the possibilities in this regard. And we understood that time is needed for Taiwan to consider the issue, and therefore, like I said, in the coming year we will continue to follow up on these matters. We do not have a concrete timetable, because as far as the framework agreement is concerned, both parties have to be ready for negotiation before a timetable can be set. And we have not yet reached this stage, but I can reassure members that in the recent third joint meeting of the ECCPC and THEC, the FS, as the honorary chairman of the THEC, expressed clearly this wish during an event in Taiwan.
Mr. Lam also asked about our role as intermediary when ECFA has been signed, and also its impact on Hong Kong, and overall and comprehensive assessment can be done, and we can look at the issue from different angles. But if we only look at goods re-export, because we were worried at the beginning that if there would be more direct flights, direct shipping, and also if there is a closer economic partnership between the two places, then would Hong Kong be affected, because we are dependent on re-export trade. If we look at figures for the past few years, something has come to pass, and that is when the economic relationship is getting closer across the strait, the pie has been enlarged. In the past 2 years, if we look at goods of freight using Hong Kong as the re-export center, going to Taiwan and going to mainland, there has been a double-digit growth in the two directions. So whether or not our role as intermediary has been affected, well, the pie indeed has been enlarged. And of course, a lot of the freight is done directly through to Taiwan and the mainland. But for us, we don't see any volume drop in terms of re-export trade. In fact, there has been a marked increase in terms of re-export trade. Mr. Lam also asked about the CE. Well, and when he assumed office, he mentioned that he had no plans to make visits outside Hong Kong. He would like to devote all his time to Hong Kong. What about his plan for the next 5 years? I'm only talking about this stage for the time being. He has no plans to visit other places. Any other members? Deputy Chairman. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Wong. I can see that freight from Hong Kong to Taiwan 240.9 billion, and goods going to Taiwan 85 billion. I'd like to know what kind of merchandise are we talking about? What do we import from Taiwan and what do we export to Taiwan? Chairman, I will answer this question. When we say import and export, import, as you know, a lot of that is re-export. So if it is re-export to Taiwan through Hong Kong, usually it is electronic equipment, electronic products, and also non-ferrous metal, and telecommunications and acoustic recording equipment, etc. These are the main goods items being re-exported to Taiwan through Hong Kong. And for items of goods coming into Hong Kong from Taiwan, usually it is electrical equipment, electronic parts, and also telecommunications and acoustic recording and replay equipment, and also primary mold plastic. But I believe a lot of that would be re-exported to the mainland. In other words, we are not selling anything to other people, is that right? Hong Kong exports are usually metals, and according to 2011 statistics, we have jewelry, silver and gold ornaments, and jewels and semi-jewels, on also metals. Okay, I'd like to follow up on a question. I can see that the Hong Kong ETO Cultural Office started to operate in December last year, and it would do a lot of things, including promoting business between Hong Kong and Taiwan, and also fostering exchanges in culture, education, and other fronts. What are the work plans for the next 12 months on these fronts? Chairman, let me answer the question in two ways. One, understand that before the meeting, and that is when we mentioned the items for discussion for the next meeting, in fact, in that meeting, we'll be inviting all the ETOs to come back here, including those in the mainland, the one in Beijing, of course, and also the Taiwan office, Taiwan ETO. All of them would be coming to the meeting of this panel next time. I believe they will then have the chance to give you a detailed account of the work last year and also project the work next year. You mean they would give me the answer, but I will also answer you. I can give you an example. You asked in November and December this year, what will our ETO in Taiwan do? Well, in fact, there will be the Hong Kong Week 2012. That is to be held in November and December. And the event will showcase to Taiwan audience a series of cultural and creative programs featuring characteristics of Hong Kong, including the History of Hong Kong Comics exhibition sponsored by the Home Affairs Bureau and the Create Hong Kong, as well as the Hong Kong Contemporary Film Showcase organized by the Hong Kong Film Development Council. But then their work plan would be to liaise with the business and cultural sectors and other sectors in Taiwan. And from time to time, they organize large-scale promotional activities and also seminars. This is what our Taiwan ETO should be doing on a daily basis. But then for the details, they will be submitting a paper to the meeting next time, and the paper will be circulated before the meeting. Next, Mr. Wang Ting-Kwang. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I have this question for you. When will you ask the Bureau to organize a site visit for us to the Taiwan ETO? We'll certainly follow up on that comment, Mr. Wang. When there is any news, I'll take it here to the meeting to discuss with you. Well, never mind, we wait, but please be quick. Clerk or PS, in September this year, we allowed Taiwan visitors to get a visa online. Did that facilitate tourism figures from Taiwan? And in fact, Taiwan also allows us to apply for visas online. Did that facilitate tourism exchanges? Chairman, certainly. We hope that after the few facilitation measures have been taken in recent years, we will be able to encourage arrivals from Taiwan. In the past 2 years, Taiwan, of course, has been the second biggest visitor source market. In the past 2 years, about 2 million visitor arrivals each year have been recorded. But the new measure this year was only launched on the 1st of September, and we would have to wait to see the results. But if my memory serves me well, I believe within September, about 40,000 Taiwanese applied for visa online. That is a free process. It just started, right? It just started in September. And now we have not really gauged the situation. But information at hand would end at August. We only had visitor figures up to August, so we are not exactly aware whether the new measure would boost tourism arrivals from Taiwan by a wide margin. But we hope that through this measure and also the tourism Bureau also upgraded its office in Taiwan last year. And I hope that they will not just look at Taiwan, but also the other cities, including Taichung. So these second-tier cities, including Taichung and Kaohsiung, etc., so we can have more tourism figures. And of course, through the ECCPC and THEC, we have included flights. Now we have direct flights between Hong Kong and Taichung. We hope that through the promotion activities and related facilities, we can attract more visitors from Taiwan. Thank you. Ms. Ann Chiang, PS. I'd like to ask about this ETO. Is that the first official Hong Kong office in Taiwan? Chairman, let me explain. We have a one country principle. That is why our office in Taiwan is a non-official entity. But of course, when we came to the Finance Committee to apply for funding approval, we said that the main function of the office was to assist, to do follow-up work after agreements have been reached on the platform of the ECCPC and the THEC, so that office is a non-official office. Then my follow-up question is, as you know, many Hong Kong people go to Taiwan for sightseeing. Sometimes they run into difficulties and they don't know who to turn to. Would it be that the ETO could help Hong Kong people who run into difficulties in Taiwan? Chairman, it depends on what situation you're talking about. The Immigration Department operates a hotline for Hong Kong people to dial wherever they are in the world. If you're talking about Hong Kong businessmen in Taiwan, if they like to liaise with the SARG, then certainly the Hong Kong ETO will be able to help the Hong Kong Economic Trade and Cultural Office in Taiwan. They would be happy to help Hong Kong businessmen in Taiwan. Mr. Martin Liu, I'd like to seek more information, more in-depth information. In 2010, Taiwan was our fifth largest service industry partner. But we do not have figures for 2011. So I'd like to know whether the trend is to be going up or down. And also we have exported exports of about $34.6 billion to Taiwan, and we have got service imports of about 17.3 billion Hong Kong dollars from Taiwan. What are these services, please? Both import and export. That's the second question. Could I please ask more questions? Of course, yes. Another question is, sorry, I have just started to read the paper from the time I came into the room, so I have been waiting to speak. Another question is the Hong Kong TDC, and that is to ask Taiwan businessmen to make use of the Hong Kong service platform in order to explore the world market together. I'd like to know whether we have done anything concrete. Can you show me data? Is that only a vision, or is it that we are already working on it? And the last question is about the two councils. On the 25th of September, a third joint meeting was held in Taiwan, and they agreed on 4 new cooperation items. One is on environment exchange, and then heritage exchange, and then accreditation and testing cooperation, and also information exchange about non-safe products. So I don't know what you mean by such exchange. Is just a chat over tea, or does it have anything to do with trade exchange? Because if it's just a kind of chat and a way to express views, then I think the only thing that can promote trade between Taiwan and Hong Kong would be the accreditation service. I think the rest is not going to bring about actual economic benefit. Well, exchanges are always good, but then do they achieve the result or target of improving trade? P.S. Is that only empty talk?
Chairman, about the services, well, usually the figures are somewhat lagged, so we only have figures. We don't have figures for 2011 yet, and the latest figures that we have are those of 2010. Now, if we look at the figures between 2006 and 2010, in terms of trade in services, we have seen growth, bilaterally speaking, and we foresee further increase in this regard. As for the sectors involved, services exports usually basically comprise tourism, trade-related services, trade-related transportation, and for service imports, basically they are tourism and transportation. Now, about the question on TDC, the Trade Development Council, they have done a lot of promotion work, including exhibitions in Hong Kong with the participation of Taiwanese businessmen. And in tapping the mainland market, we also hope to see more brands being introduced. They may not be Hong Kong brands, but if they can make use of this platform, it may help Hong Kong's services industry. I don't have examples at hand, but if members are interested, perhaps we can have a visit at the TDC or ask them to reply in writing. I don't have information with me at the moment. Next, about the exchange on the ECCP CTHEC platform, I want to explain that this platform is not just about trade and economic cooperation. This platform is for areas of interest of both sides, including trade and economic development, and also other cooperation in other areas, for example, legal services. This is a platform for discussion and coordination. And according to the joint meeting in September, there are 4 areas, and for testing and accreditation services. If it's mutually recognized, of course, it's a business facilitation for both sides. As for reporting mechanism of unsafe products, this is important for our bilateral cooperation. For example, food products, if we've identified some products as unsafe food products under our enforcement framework. Under this reporting mechanism, we will inform our Taiwanese counterparts and vice versa. So in terms of cooperation, this is one step up the ladder. We have frequent bilateral exchanges, and members are also aware of the fact that Taiwanese food is very popular in Hong Kong. Many Taiwanese food is exported to mainland through Hong Kong. And they have to do with livelihood issues as well. So we want to make use of this platform, which not only has to do with trade and economics, but other areas as well, to enhance cooperation between the two sides. And therefore, in the September's meeting, we set down the 4 areas for discussion. One area will be headed by me, and that is to promote exchange between business organizations, and this is one of the items under Invest Hong Kong's purview. I think through this we can complement each other, just like the partnership with mainland cities. We also have similar promotion work, and this is the discussion that we're going to have with Taiwan in the coming year. Next, Ho Chun-yin. Thank you, Chairman. Point E in the paper, exchange and cooperation of creative industries. Now, the Hong Kong Design Center entered into MOU with the Taiwan Design Center, and I see a series of activities like the International Design Alliance Congress Taipei and Taipei International Book Exhibition, and we also had a delegation of the film industry to Taiwan for exchanges. So are we ever going to host similar activities? Because I see delegations and visits to Taiwan. Can we have some activities in Hong Kong to promote creative industries, the development of creative industries and tourism in Hong Kong? Next, Para 20. It says, and it also has to do with creative industries. Well, I don't know if this part should be answered by the HAB or PS. Now, there will be a series of cultural and creative programs featuring the characteristics of Hong Kong, which include the history of Hong Kong Comics exhibition, so on and so forth. And for Taiwan, they have this, you are the apple of my eye, but what about our creative industry? I'd like to hear from the administration whether they have any vision in this regard. P.S. Chairman, I'll try my best. It's not under my purview. It should be under HAB and the relevant bodies. Now, these are exchange activities. For example, the Taiwan Design Center in July this year sent a delegation to take part in an activity organized by the Hong Kong Design Center and a Shenzhen organization. So definitely, we had those activities, but in the paper we only mentioned those which we took part in, and there is room for our cooperation. The paper sets out the planned and upcoming activities in the coming year. It doesn't mean that our exchanges are confined to the events set out in the paper. The Hong Kong Contemporary Film Showcase is one of our key point event, and the Hong Kong Comics and Animation is also another key point. So This year, our relevant office will work with the HAB on these two themes. First, and recently, we are also aware of the fact that the Taiwanese movies are getting more and more popular. So we see a chance for our new generation directors and producers to exchange exchange their experience with their Taiwanese counterparts and explore any cooperation opportunities. In terms of publishing and printing sector, which is part of our creative industries, we also hold activities. For example, our publishing and printing sector took part in the Taipei International Book Exhibition this year. We set up a Hong Kong pavilion, and it was well received, and we plan to have a similar event in 2013 when the local sector will also take part in the exhibition by then. So it's not just about film, we also take part in other cultural programs. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, last item on the agenda, number 5, any other items? Now, I'd like to, any other business? I'd like to refer members to a letter submitted by Deputy Chairman on the diversification of industries. Now, Deputy Chair, where would you like to put on the agenda? Thank you, Chairman. I hope the matter could be discussed at the next meeting. I wonder if it's possible. I am not very familiar with the procedures. I am new to the council. I am a new deputy chair. But the fact is, we all know that the external economies are fluctuating, and the finance and the tourism industries, and tourism industry in particular, rely heavily on external economies. If visitors don't come and spend money, we will face a huge impact. But according to the tourism sector, even if we have 4 million more visitors, we won't be able to absorb them. And therefore, we must develop our manufacturing industries. We must develop our own brands. Well, the chairman and also other members are from industrial sector, and we know that throughout the past 3 decades, when during economic downturns, very often our economy was driven by the export sector. So in terms of diversification of the industrial sector, we hope that apart from the tourism industry, we can consider what can be done to do something in this regard. Well, I've just checked the list of items for discussion prepared by the Secretariat. In fact, in December, we only have one item about the research and development of Chinese medicines. So if we do not have another item, how about adding this item proposed by Deputy Chair, diversification of our industrial sector, as one of the items in December? Chairman, it involves a wide scope, so please give us some time. We'll go back and check with the relevant bureaus and see if we can come back in December for this item. Yes, because I see that December seems to be available, so if you can have the papers prepared by December, this will be listed. Any other business? If not, then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you for attending. Thank you. PS.